USAID's Goodwill Ambassador for nutrition, we could not be prouder of the selection that we have made. You are not only a beacon for those of us who have been fighting this fight for so many years, you are really a hope for a next generation of Nigerians.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Chioma Chukwuka Akpotha.
Thank you very much for having me, and I pray that I do you proud. My voice is your voice, our voice, and together we will win. Thank you.
Wow, that was Nigerian Nollywood star Chioma Chukwuka, who earlier this year was appointed USAID Goodwill Ambassador for Nutrition. Hello, I'm Oriani Tangishaka, and this is Our Voices. We're about to follow Chioma's journey to success. This very talented Nigerian actress was recently appointed as USAID Goodwill Ambassador for Nutrition in Nigeria. Her position empowers her to raise awareness about maternal health and child nutrition in her country. According to USAID's 2021 Food Consumption and Micronutrition Survey, the severe malnutrition in Nigerian children increased from 7 to 12% over the last 5 years. USAID also noted that malnutrition remains a significant challenge in Nigeria, with severe acute malnutrition impacting 3.6 million children and contributing to 50% of all deaths among children under 5 years old. Today, we look at how governments, influencers, and other stakeholders work together to tackling major society problems such as malnutrition, as well as other issues. I am here with my co-host as usual, Siminyesh Yakoye and Jeannie Niwa. And of course, we are very happy to have here in studio with us none other than Chioma Chukwuka herself. She has been in the Nollywood film industry nearly 20 years and has recently been appointed as USAID Goodwill Ambassador for Nutrition in Nigeria. Later, we will also have in studio with us Foyeke Oyedokun-Adebagbo, the USAID nutrition expert who will share the Nigerians' effort to tackle malnutrition in women and children. But first, we hear from Chioma herself. Welcome, Chioma, to Our Voices.
Thank you so much.
It is such a pleasure to have you with us.
Such an honor to be here.
It's really an honor
Thank you.
to have you here. And you are known for very talented acting. You are also, I mean, you are a face of Africa, I would say, because we all, watch Nollywood movie.
Awesome.
Now you have added another title under your belt. You are the advocate for the well-being of women and children. How does that feel?
Whew, it's been humbling and rewarding, I must say, because over the course of my career, I kind of like channeled it down to advocacy through my movies, trying to mirror the good things I want to see in my society, in my community. So I wanted to see so many good things happen in Nigeria. And when I realized that, I actually have a voice, and then when USAID called to, partner with them to help, drive the message of malnutrition and the effects, and then possible, ways of curbing those effects, I was like, I have to do this.
Definitely.
I have to do this. I mean, I didn't just stumble on this voice. It came to me, and I need to use it for something positive, and this is it.
Well, talking about your acting, my mother doesn't watch all the shows, but I know she'll watch this one just because
of you. Thank you, Mommy.
So tell us a little bit about your journey into acting and how you're now using your influence, your voice as an advocate for vulnerable in society.
I kind of like stumbled into acting in as much as I wanted to do it as a youngster. Right. But on my way
but
to...
I read you used to play in secondary schools even.
Yes, but I didn't think it was going to be this big, right? So
it is big.
Thank you. And then, I started acting and I enjoyed it. It wasn't as if I didn't want... graduated as with BSc in banking and finance, but I didn't want to count numbers. You know? And then I found myself in this field. I was like, oh yeah, I've always wanted to be in front of the camera, be it singing or acting, but I just narrowed it down to acting. And I found a voice, right? And in the course of my over 20 years in this business, I really discovered that I can't just be acting for acting's sake. I have to do something positive with it. So if you watch any of my films, even in most recent times, you realize that there's a message I always try to pass across, because we use the platforms to mirror what we want to see change in our society. So I had to do something with that voice, right? So,
even if I'm not mistaken, your first movie, you were acting as a girl who didn't want to marry, right?
No, who wanted to marry at a very young age.
Yes,
you know?
exactly.
Yeah,
there's
so
a message
there was
there,
a message there that
Exactly.
you have to be prepared. Kids need to go through, you know, the entire education. You know, be someone that. You know, you have to be someone. You have to find yourself before you find yourself in the union called marriage, right? So that was the message that movie was trying to pass.
Very nice.
Yeah.
When I'm watching you on screen, what I realize is that you're very convincing. I mean, you get into the role and you're very convincing.
Yeah.
Now you're a celebrity, of course. Now you're an ambassador. Do you realize that I'm sure that's why they picked you, but does that celebrity status really helps to drive the message home?
Thank you.
But
You've answered the question really, because most of my followers believe in my craft and they believe in my person.
You're believable.
Yes. And so when I bring the nutrition program to them and say, this is what it is, right? Make the right choices for your kids, you know. Healthy living is better food, better life.
Right.
Healthy living is the best way, is the right path, right? You have to give your children, to give them a healthy start in life, right? And I've gotten positive responses of families and especially mothers with their children who have listened, and through the awareness we've created with USAID, how effective these programs have been in their lives.
So it's also very rewarding for you.
Very rewarding and humbling. You know, it's amazing when someone comes to me and say, Chioma, you saved my life. Like, you saved my child. This child was about to die. I wasn't giving them the right food. I didn't do this, I didn't do that. But with the programs USAID has made available to us, I'm more aware, I'm more educated in things like that, right? So I'm like, I have to go all in. I have to do something. I even have to go back to school to learn so many. Yeah.
So give us a glimpse of your day as an advocate in communities. It can be on the ground, it can be online. How do you do it?
So through my movies, through my skits, and then communal visits. I go to communities. Every day when we go to the communities, like outreach programs to show the women and families what right choices to make when it comes to, you know, nutrition and healthy living for their children. I mean, we do that. We go to hospitals. We visit organizations, government quarters to say we need help. You know, our people are dying and they don't need to die. We have good food. We have homegrown foods that can help us live a healthy life, right? We know in Nigeria that, you know, the life expectancy is 57 years. And just think about it. How old am I?
And it's not like we don't have
You know, how old am I? I'm like, oh, so I have just a few more years? No, I have to do something about it. And we catch them young. If we can start making healthy life choices, imagine what it will be if we start to give our children that from the very first latch.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know you've been doing this for a very short time, but do you have any success stories of where you actually follow the family or maybe even challenges, you know, just part of your journey, some success stories and some challenges
Yeah, like
in this
I said,
type of
I've
work?
had people come to me to say, okay, this has helped me. My child eats better now, responds to, you know, the food that they've been giving them. Like the Tom Brown is absolutely amazing. You see children who have gone from being malnourished to, you know, being really, really healthy. And that one of the challenges we face is language barriers, finances, and, you know, just having the general knowledge being available to them. But we've been able, over the very few moments I've been the Goodwill Ambassador, to help curb those, challenges. Yeah.
Talking about challenges,
Great work.
sometimes cultural beliefs, religious beliefs can be much more strong and it will be hard to break. So how persistent are you or are you the campaign to break those challenges?
So again, leveraging on my voice, right? And being confident that, okay, whatever message I pass across, whatever message with the partnering of USAID pass across, people believe it. I was going to say something that, do you know that some years down the line, not down the line, before now, that women in my part of the country weren't allowed to eat eggs.
Oh.
They're like, no, it's for the guys.
Which part is that?
The Igbo state, the Igbo-speaking part of the country,
Is
right?
there a
For the
reason for
guests.
that?
Yeah.
For guys?
For men,
For male?
that, we're not deserving.
Oh my
Really?
That it's just for us. And you imagine that kind of mentality, and then some other women being told that, no, that first breast milk, which is highly nutritious, it's dirty milk. Yes.
Wow.
So those are things we fight daily. The
Miseducation,
message to
yeah.
pass across to them. That is the main one that baby needs, right?
Wow.
So
it requires consistency to break those kind of
and then we
beliefs.
have to keep at it, keep going, non-stop.
Chioma, tell us, you here now, tell us a little bit more why, the reason why you're in the U.S.
You are in Washington, D.C.
Yes.
In our studio. Welcome.
Thank you very much. It's, to further buttress the fact that we need help,
Okay.
to help curb malnutrition in Africa, in Nigeria. Nigeria ranks #1 in Africa and second globally with cases of malnutrition, and it's really bad. So that's why I'm here on the platform of USAID to say, please, we need the help. I'm just plugging in, getting ideas of how to implement all of those things that I can get here back home, right? To see how further we can push this
you're
message.
definitely needed at such a time
Yes,
as this.
yes, absolutely.
And we're glad that, you're coming here so you can continue with that message.
Thank you.
So it's now time for a short break. When we return, we will talk with Foyeke Oyedokun-Adebagbo, USAID nutrition expert about malnutrition and children. We ask you to share this on our social media platform at VOA Africa. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter. Use the hashtag VOA Our Voices. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
In times of change, when the world seems uncertain and what we hear doesn't reflect what we see, we seek the truth. When we are told only part of the story, we lose trust. In moments of crisis, our dreams, hopes, and wishes for a better tomorrow depends on a free press. At Voice of America, we bring you the stories that people take risks to see. We connect the world and unite it with truth. At Voice of America, we show you the whole picture.
You're watching VOA's Red Carpet. My name is Jackson Vunganyi. Thank you so much for joining us each week right here on Red Carpet. We bring you the latest in
health, wellness, sport, beauty, medical breakthroughs. Healthy Living cares about your well-being. What are the main health concerns in Africa and around the world? Find out the latest on coronavirus. Connect with our experts and ask them questions.
How long does the virus stay?
Join me, Linor Mudu, in Washington every week on Healthy Living, right here on VOA.
Welcome back. You are watching Our Voices. We are discussing the effect of malnutrition on women and children and how to combat this significant challenge. We have in the studio USAID Goodwill Ambassador Chioma Chukwuka, a Nollywood influencer in Nigeria, who is telling us how she advocates for the well-being of women and children. Now, we also have invited Foyeke Oyedokun-Adebagbo, USAID social behavior specialist, who now is going to help us understand the causes of malnutrition and its impact. Ms. Foye, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
First, let's start with you telling us why are the numbers of malnutrition in women and children so high in Nigeria?
So that's a very big question. I mean, malnutrition is a challenge. I think we've established that in Nigeria. And I think as Chioma was saying earlier, we have like the second highest burden of stunting. So over 10 million children are actually stunted in the country. And so it's a big challenge. And it's driven by a mix of factors, right? It's a mix of socioeconomic factors, you know, it's a mix of cultural and behavioral factors, health system factors. So, I mean, we have high poverty rates as well in Nigeria. So I think that already tells you a story of how directly related to, you know, affordability of food that could mean. So purchasing power for buying the right types of food. So locally available food options are there, they're available, but then accessibility is hindered by sometimes just being able to afford those kinds of food. We also have very low literacy rates, especially for women, and you find disparities across region. And we do have data that supports that the more educated a woman is, the better outcomes for health and nutrition for herself and for her children, right? So as you move further up the north and find lower literacy rates for women, you also find the burden of malnutrition on women and children higher in those kinds of regions.
So why is literacy connected with malnutrition?
Information. So I mean, you know, literacy is, you know, it could be formal, informal, but in this case, we're talking about nutrition literacy. Right? Just being able to make the right choices. And, you know, you have food groups. What food groups are available in the local markets? How do you mix those kinds of food groups to give your child the appropriate, you know, the adequate nutrient that they need at each stage as they develop? Because that begins to vary. As a pregnant woman, you know, with the additional burden of carrying a pregnancy, when you're lactating and nurturing a child, you know, how do you make those choices? How do you increase your iron intake? How do you increase your calcium intake to support your body's needs? So it's a whole lot of those kinds of education, just really helping women make the right choices, you know, within the limits of their economic, you know, power to be able to, you know, make the most of what's available in the market.
And we've seen the challenges, because I'm still stuck on the fact that, you know, you have to educate so much, you know, and destroy beliefs such as, you know, the first milk, which is so important, which is, you know, really pushed here in the hospital. And, you know, some women believe that it's dirty, like you said. So what does it require for influencer like Chioma to best articulate the issue that are critical in our societies in support in nutrition experts' voice?
So, I mean, I think the easiest way to answer that is think about how you wake up every morning and live your life, you know, not necessarily being intentional about what choices you make in relation to nutrition, right? So you wake up every morning, you're not necessarily thinking, how much calorie am I going to get from the cereal? How much calorie, you know, like, is this sufficient? So, you know, the specialists would, you know, medicalize and talk about these terminologies, but your everyday realities is probably more attuned to the things that you flow with that are not conscious choices. So having influencers from Nollywood, you know, people consume a lot of media, for example, and those stories, those narratives shape the way we think. They shape what we consider valuable versus what we consider, you know, and also having those kinds of voices on the table, just speak to women without the medical terminologies, in languages, even without them knowing that they are being influenced to make choices, you know, always makes a big difference. So,
Do you see that the same way?
Yes, yes, I do, absolutely. I mean, from my journey, from my movies, and if we're able to say it to them without, you know, pictures stick more than what you read. If you're able to visualize it, then you can transcribe, right? So through the movies, we're able to say, okay, make the right choices, eat early in the morning, don't go without breakfast, don't do this. Mother, breastfeed your child at least exclusively from 0 to 6 months. All of those things, all of those information that we need to push across, we do.
That's true. They come to get entertainment, but they also get education.
Yes. You see what I mean?
Now, when you look, and I have to correct earlier, I said a nutrition expert, but behavior expert. Do you see a light at the end of the tunnel when you're doing the advocacy work, and also yourself, do you see a light at the end of the tunnel? Because malnutrition is a very serious issue, and it requires changing of the mindset in some cases, many cases on the continent.
Yes, I mean, I think the short and sweet answer would be yes, there's light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, I think we've seen progress. It's not all, doom and gloom. There's progress that we've seen with exclusive breastfeeding rates, for example. So I think, behavior is usually driven by a multitude of factors, right? It's sometimes the norms that enable those behaviors as well. So the kinds of programs that USAID supports in Nigeria are those that, unbundle like those behaviors, identify those drivers, and tries to use interventions, evidence-based interventions to kind of drive them. Right. So we've seen, those, result in women moving to intention and then moving from intention to action. So you could measure at every point in time how people are moving along the behavior change spectrum. So
she has a saying that says better food, better life.
Better food, better life. Yes, I'm listening to that. You mentioned earlier about accessibility. So once the behavior changes, accessibility should also be there. So are there any USAID action plans in terms of that?
Yeah, so USAID's nutrition strategy is actually multi-sectoral, right, in Nigeria. So I'm with the health office, so you are probably biased towards speaking more about the health interventions that we do, but there's a whole lot that also happens with the food and agriculture systems. There's a whole lot that happens with poverty, helping to reduce poverty, social protection programs, so that when women move, from, empowering women, so we have women groups, for example, where, they come together, contribute small monies, and then they use that to support each other in doing their businesses. So it increases their earning power. The evidence definitely shows us that more women, when they have income, they plow a lot of it back into the family, into making nutrition choices for their kids as opposed to the men. So those kinds of empowerment program increases the chances that mom puts more money in women's hands and empowers them to make more meaningful choices for their kids. So we're seeing those kinds of small accessibility improvements that also happens within communities and households.
Otherwise, Chioma will hold you accountable. She's also an ambassador, on the other way.
Sure.
And I'm thinking about, the better food, better life. When you go into the community, those kind of messages are short and sweet, straight to the point. Yeah. The women are more receptive to really, thinking about
grab
this.
Yeah, they are. It's more easy to assimilate, right? I mean, much like the plenty of grammar. It's just small and concise. It's an action word. It's, let's do this, let's get it done, right? So it's easier for them to act like, if I'm healthy, my child is healthy, we'll move forward through this life and then not live beyond 57.
That's correct.
What are lessons you learn, during this fight of malnutrition?
The fight is not over. We have to keep pushing. Like Foye rightfully said, there's light at the end of the tunnel, but we cannot fold our hands and hope that we just arrive there. We have to keep working, hoping that more government officials will come and join the cause. It's a fight.
It's a fight.
We have to get to the end and come out successful.
Right. Absolutely. Now we know that there are the actual big numbers. When we look at in the case of severe malnutrition, 2 million children in Nigeria, as noted by the UNICEF, have malnutrition. There's some action plan.
2 million.
Yeah.
The 10 million stunted
right
growth,
now. Are there action plans that are being done right now that you think can be replicated in other places on the continent that are very unique?
Yes, I would say it's a concerted effort. There's a National Council of Nutrition in Nigeria that's led by the Vice President and has all of the different donors, USAID, UNICEF. So there's like a multi-sectoral plan of action for nutrition, food and nutrition in Nigeria. And I think USAID contributes a lot to implementing that vision. We do a lot of capacity building for, for the healthcare workers, for example, when a child comes in with severe acute malnutrition, what do you need to do to help that child nurture back to life, right? So there's all that, capacity building that happens at the facility. There's a lot of public-private partnerships with private sector for the local manufacturing of therapeutic food programs.
Okay.
So it's very expensive to keep bringing them in, to keep bringing those commodities in, and then you need to get a child on it for a long period of time to get out. And then if you don't do prevention programs, they relapse again, and then you have to repeat the treatment.
Yes, so, because they're at acute level.
Exactly, they're at acute level. So partnering with the private sector is critical to reducing that cost in the long term and making sure that the sustainable solutions are, homegrown to continue to treat the children. And then, of course, the whole social behavior change programs that we do as well in the community level, so that women know exactly, when you've treated a child and it is out of danger zone, that child doesn't relapse again in a matter of months, because now you're making better food choices and you're also supporting other children not to become severely malnourished. Yeah. So there's a prevention, there's a treatment, and then there's a whole commodity support.
Different stages, right.
Yeah. So, Chioma, any movie coming out on malnutrition?
Best believe we're going to infuse everything.
Exactly.
It's the whole package.
Right. Yeah. Better food, better life is what we'll be singing.
Yes, so better food,
better life.
Better food is equal to long life.
We'll be seeing a lot of you guys on the ground doing great work, and we really wish you the best in promoting nutrition in Nigeria. Well, that is our show for today. Thanks to our guest, Nollywood actress and USAID Goodwill Ambassador, Chioma Chukwuka, who was here with us. We really appreciate you. And of course, USAID social behavior change specialist who was here with us, Foyeke Oyedokun, for joining us here in Studio Our Voices. Be sure to watch Our Voices on the VOA website at voaafrica.com, on our YouTube channel, where you can catch up on the latest episode and the world's top news stories. But last but not least, we thank our editorial and production team on Our Voices. Be sure to continue watching the conversation on our platforms. Until next time, it's goodbye.